How do you pronounce your last name?
LaPere.
LaPere?
Yep, very easy.
What is that?
Fake French.
Fake French?
Yeah. My great-grandfather was adopted, and he didn't care about what his last name was, but he wanted to be a chef, so he decided people would take him more seriously if he had a French last name, so he literally just made it up.
Really?
Yeah, but he didn't know enough about French to know that that means the father, and you have to use the masculine particle in the beginning, so it should be L-E, so it should be le instead of la, so the feminine father, which is why I don't have a restaurant empire, I'm guessing.
Yeah. But you're like, nah, it's too feminine.
Exactly.
That doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, he's not really French, they can tell.
That's
so it's
funny.
Just fake.
That's funny. Are you a veteran?
I am. Yep.
Okay.
11 years.
11 years. What'd you do?
Air Force, medic.
Air Force. I was Air Force.
Yep.
Nice, man.
Yeah, 95 to 2006.
So I went in at 2009.
Okay.
So 2009 to 2015, 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I was F-22 weapons. So I was a flight line guy, you know, one of those jobs where you don't get any time off.
I
You're
understand.
constantly
Same with
grinding.
the medic.
Yeah.
Hospital's always open.
Exactly. Yeah. You got the hospital, you got the flight line, and then you got security forces that are like the busiest operations
Yeah.
in the Air Force. Everybody else gets to, you know, finance. They're just
Yeah.
9 to 5.
Yeah, we're closed. It's Saturday.
Yeah.
We'll
Don't
be-
come in. Heck yeah, man. Well, good stuff, dude. So fellow Air Force guy.
Definitely.
Nice. Well, you ready to roll?
I'm ready.
What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. What we do on this podcast is bringing guests from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life to share their journey and everything in between that led them to where they're at today. We're here to make an impact, and that is what we do. So if that is for you, like, subscribe, all those wonderful things. And if that is not for you, I don't know what your problem is, but you need to jump on board today. Thank you. I would love to introduce today's guest. Is it Doctor?
It's Dr.
Dr. Jimmy LaPere. LaPere?
LaPere.
LaPere. Yeah. Welcome, man.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. It's an honor to have you. I've heard of you. I've seen your stuff on social media, you know, and you're right up the road from me, but we've never met. So I figured, hey, this guy probably has a killer story. He's obviously got a lot of information. So, yeah, it's good to have you, man.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So, first of all, just let's let the audience get to know you. I like to first start with telling everybody what it is that you do right now in your life. You know, got family and all that stuff. And then we take it back. So go ahead, briefly, let me know what you got going on.
Sure.
And we'll go from there.
So married and just had our dating anniversary of 25 years on Thanksgiving to a woman that I had a crush on in the 7th grade who wouldn't give me the time of day at that moment. But after 10 years of relentless pursuit, she finally said yes and went on a date with me. We've got 4 kids that age range from 11 to 26.
Yeah.
My wife and I run a medical practice here in town that is a little outside of the box. We don't accept insurance. We provide both medical and aesthetic care. So we do a lot of hormone replacement with men and women. And then we do health optimization with things like peptide therapy. We also do weight loss, but then we do the aesthetic care as well to try to make the outside as happy as the inside is. So we'll do things like Botox and fillers. I even do cosmetic surgical procedures like liposuction and things like that. Laser resurfacing. We do our own IV therapy. We mix all the bags and medications that we use in the house. So nothing is going to be cookie cutter when you come in. And it was really just a way to get to take care of patients the way I wanted to.
Nice.
In the hospital, when I was a hospitalist for several years in Smyrna, which is not too far away from where we are now, I constantly had a struggle of what I felt was best for the patient and what either the hospital would allow or what an insurance company in most cases would pay for.
Okay.
And it was never what I thought was the best thing that we could do for our patients.
Yeah.
So getting out on your own and not having the constraints of insurance was always a dream of mine. And 2.5 years later, we can pay our bills. We are growing exponentially. We had about 420% growth our first year, and we're up over 115% over that this year in our full second year.
Nice.
And I have been away from the hospital for 13 months as of this month. So,
hey, congratulations,
Thank
man.
you.
That's a huge milestone, because there's that risk with going on your own too. It's not always promised.
correct.
But that's the beauty in it too, the fact that you're willing to do so. So yeah, man, I can really appreciate that for sure. So, and I want to dive into more of what you do, but let's take it back. Let's take it back to early Jimmy.
Early.
Back to the French restaurant and I'm just kidding. No, but early Jimmy, where are you from? And some influences along the way in your childhood and whatnot. And then and we'll lead up to this and where you're at today and talk on all these other things.
Gotcha. So I was definitely a surprise. My mom was 16. I was one of those kids. I was born in Detroit, Michigan. So I probably have a little bit more apprehension around strangers than the average person in Tennessee. We are not huggers in Detroit. So,
You're getting a hug when you leave here, okay?
so that took some adjusting. At age 9, I moved to Tennessee with my mom and my then stepdad, and I've been in Tennessee until I hit 18 and went off into the Air Force. Still had to spend a lot of time during the summers because my dad and all my family's still in Detroit. So I still have a strong tie with Detroit. I still hate Ohio State and was so happy this past weekend, and I'm proud of the Detroit Lions for once. Then went off to the Air Force. I really wanted to do pararescue, which is basically a medic that jumps out of airplanes and finds people that are behind enemy lines. And Uncle Sam said, "You are colorblind." And even though I argued that I knew what color ground was and I would pull the parachute on time, they said no. So they let me be a regular combat medic, which didn't make the most sense to me. But I knew I wanted to be a doctor someday. And it sounds corny, but I saw an episode of Doogie Howser when I was 13, and he was able to fix his girlfriend whose appendix ruptured. And I just thought that was the coolest thing, that someone got hurt, and he was able to fix that hurt.
Yeah.
And I just knew I wanted to do that. And being a medic at least put me into the throes with doctors, and I leached onto people all the time.
Yeah.
I don't want to call people mentors because a lot of times they were just influences of a little extra kindling, I guess, for that fire, to keep things going. I would start getting kind of down in the weeds. You were in the military, and taking classes while you're in the military is not the most efficient thing. You might get to take one class one semester. You might get lucky and get to take 3 classes the next semester.
Yeah.
So I was 25 years old before I finished my bachelor's degree.
Okay.
I got lucky in my second duty station where I worked primarily either in a clinic or on the ambulance response team where you work 24-hour shifts. So I had multiple days off a month.
Yeah.
Actually got to play Division III tennis for my bachelor's, had eligibility, and then did a master's and some post-grad work in chemistry and got to play, made the Division I team.
While you're in the Air Force?
While I was active duty.
Dang.
So I would wake up, go to the clinic at 6 o'clock in the morning. Clinic would close at 3. I'd haul butt to the tennis court, have practice for 2 hours, have classes all night long because, of course, you've got to be a full-time student to be eligible to play, and then our matches were always on weekends. Had 2 kids at the time, so a great wife, obviously. Definitely missed a lot with my kids that you can't get back, and I try to justify it with I was trying for the greater good, but still looking back at my age now, you start thinking, man, I missed that play or that parent-teacher conference. But that's what got me to where I am today. So like you and your motorcycle crash, it's hard to say, would you change anything? Because who knows where that road may have taken me if I didn't make those sacrifices.
Facts.
But ultimately did 11 years in the Air Force, got out with my MBA in finance. My wife said maybe we could make some money because, in the Air Force, we are not wealthy individuals with our staff sergeant pay or whatever rank you were. So I took a job as a financial advisor in 2006, right before the market crashed. I did that for about 3 years. And
so you really got to learn it.
Yes. So I toughed it out with a company called UBS. It's a really big bank out of Switzerland, and then got back into the medical field by being a consultant with a company called Allergan. I'd have to go into the OR and discuss how the device would get prepped and watch the surgeons put it in and get frustrated that I thought I could probably do that. And why did I get deterred from going to medical school? The company was getting reorganized, we'll say, and they offered me a severance package or a different type of a position. And I basically called my wife from the airport as they offered me that thing and said, can I take this severance package and go to medical school? And she said yes, because I guess she knew I just was not ever going to let it go. So I didn't actually go to medical school until I was 34 years old. And then medical school, I did an externship in cosmetic surgery, did a residency in family medicine with a focus also on geriatric medicine, and then got out of there and moved back to Tennessee to get back around family.
Interesting, man. What a journey.
I added 2 more kids.
Heck yeah, dude. So you got 4 kids.
4 kids.
Oh, man. Well, all right, guys. That's it. I'm just kidding. Dude, very thorough, though, man. I've got so many questions. I want to take it back to, your childhood a little bit. Your mom was 16, you said?
Mm-hmm.
And so same mother and father your whole life? Or
No, my grandpa basically told my dad, he'll kill him if he doesn't marry my daughter. And so they got married. That didn't last very long. It was, they were just kids.
Yeah, of course.
Dating. So 3 years, I think that marriage lasted. We always stayed in the same city until we moved down to Tennessee. A stepdad came into the picture. But we learned a lot of things together, I feel.
Yeah.
Growing up. And even when I got into the Air Force, I'm 22 years old making decisions, and you call your mom's 38 years old.
Yeah.
It almost, you start looking at things as peers sometimes, which is not the best thing.
Yeah.
You need a parent to sometimes just shake you and say, I know I'm only 16 years older than you, but you're being stupid.
Yeah.
And she did several times, luckily, in a very positive way.
That's positive too, man. You think about that, I've talked about this before pretty often. I didn't have my first one till 33, I've got an 18-month-old daughter, but I got to figure out a bunch of stuff in my 20s. Luckily, today I'm like, I know who I am. So I'm able to focus more on her and who she becomes. Right. So there's a beauty in it, but it's not saying that like having them young is a bad thing too, but you're also trying to figure out who you are. You're especially at 16. I couldn't imagine. I mean, you're just trying to you got a baby, but you're like, who am I?
Yeah.
I mean, you may at 16 think, but that adds a whole nother layer, man. So, and props to her. She sounds like she's done the best she could for you, Oh, yeah. And I assume y'all are pretty close nowadays.
Definitely.
That's awesome, man.
Always a mama's boy.
Yeah. Hey, it's hard not to be, man. Same here. But, and then so working your way, were you an athlete? You said you did tennis in college. Were you doing tennis in high school and all that stuff as well?
I did somewhat. So I was a traditional kid, played any sport that school would throw at you. Excelled, I guess, at baseball the most. That's what my stepdad did, was baseball and softball. So played baseball until I was about 12. Saw Andre Agassi in a Sports Illustrated and thought tennis sounds awesome. Played tennis for a few years and then got really good really quick, but got really into martial arts, which I wanted to be a ninja.
Yeah.
After CHIPS, because I wanted to be a motorcycle policeman.
Yeah.
Until I was about 7 years old, and then I wanted to be a ninja from there on out. So I competed at the national level for martial arts, and then my senior year of high school kind of kicked myself that I'd put all that time, and my parents had put all that money into lessons for tennis. So played tennis my senior year of high school, and then hung up my racket for about 8 years until I started playing in college.
Yeah.
So I just kind of picked it back up and started practicing again. And like I said, played a couple years at D3 and then was able to move up to D1.
You were like, man, you were just picked up that racket. You were like, man, I never lost it. Check this out.
Yeah.
You might have lost a little bit.
Maybe different than that.
But it obviously came back to you because you worked your way up in that. I mean, that's pretty cool. I don't think I've ever played tennis. It's a cool sport. I think it's great. Yeah. And I definitely there with the martial arts. I got into boxing when I was in high school, mainly for football and like the athleticism part, but now I do it too. I train people in boxing as well, and I've done some underground bare knuckle stuff over the past couple of years. Yeah, it's a little crazy, but I think that primal part of us, I think it's important for men. I think it's good to challenge yourself in that way. I think martial arts is extremely crucial. I'm gonna teach my daughter how to box. I don't want her to be like a boxer, right, but I think it'd be important for her to learn and just boost her confidence as well as a young woman, especially in this crazy world we're in. So that's important. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's important to be punched in the face and realize it's not going to kill you. And that happens. Sometimes, I don't know if you do it in boxing training, but when I did kickboxing in addition to the normal martial arts, which is kind of like boxing, but you got to throw 8 kicks with intent in a round.
Yeah.
But we'd just have to stand there with our hands behind our back, clenching our mouth guard and getting punched in the face. So you'd get used to not flinching every time you get punched.
Yeah.
So you're going to get punched.
Yeah. Worst case, you get knocked out. Guess what? You get up and you're good to go. What do you think, going through childhood and everything, who inspired you the most maybe? Have you been able to recognize that today in your life? And also, what were some of the greatest challenges throughout, that time of your life that you've understood now?
So definitely my mom was a big inspiration as far as just pure work ethic. She did not sit down, watch TV. She always was working. And it hurts because I liked my mom a lot more than my stepdad at the time. He wasn't the best person. We'll just leave it at that. I don't even want to give him the honor of time. But my mom, she always worked. I'd want her home, but she just couldn't because, she was 16 when she had me. So that knocked high school out. She was able to go back to school and get her piece of paper ultimately, but I think that happened in her 30s. It was right before I graduated from high school.
Yeah.
So she worked hard. She worked in factories. She worked as a bartender. She did whatever she could to try to make sure that I had as much as I could have and that our life was as good as it could be. Challenges, obviously, we were not the wealthiest family, know, so in the city we grew up in McMinnville, it sounds funny to say in this small little podunk town, which is what I affectionately call it, that there's a lot of wealth, but that nursery business, I guess, creates a lot of wealth. So I would see all these people, and I guess those wants of wanting to have what they had, that was a big inspiration to me too of, well, if I can work hard, I can get the BMW that kid's mom has, or fill in the blank, because sometimes you could see through our floorboard, but I had 2 other really big inspiring people. I had one female, and her name is Richie Churchill, and she's passed away now. But when I played tennis, my parents they were always working. Or if they weren't working, they were watching my little sister, so they couldn't just drive me somewhere. And she would come and pick me up almost every day and take me to the tennis courts and let me either play tennis with her or she would set up matches for me to play other people almost every day.
That's cool.
I would not be anywhere near the tennis player I am without Richie Churchill. And then my martial arts instructor, and his name is Terry Warren. I'll shout out to him too. He is still alive. He was like a second parent to me, him and his wife, Teresa. They just really took me under their wings when we would travel to these tournaments. My parents were working almost all the time. Sometimes my stepdad would get to come and watch. But I won the USA championship in '94. My mom has never seen me fight. She's never seen me compete in martial arts. I played Division I tennis. My mom has never seen me play one tennis match.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to say, but she always had to work, and if it wasn't for Terry and Teresa being so invested in me and kind of adopting me and let me stay in their room, let me ride with them to these tournaments, I would not have had that success. And martial arts, just as a base for how you live your life, I think is a great thing. So being exposed to that, the diligence and the hard work and the discipline that you have to have of just listening to someone else.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do just need to listen without questioning things. I think it's important to question things in private and reevaluate sometimes. Is this the best way to do it? But sometimes you need to know that when someone tells you to do it, you should just do it. And then when it's done, then let's question it.
Yeah.
Unless it's going to kill somebody. But martial arts does that.
I agree 100%. I think martial arts also teaches you, how to accept. I'm not going to say failure because that to me, I have this thing. The only way to fail is to quit, but how to accept, I guess, losing or whatever the case is, right? Like I played football. So you could, well, this guy wasn't doing all this. We would have won had he catch the ball.
Right.
And with martial arts, though, it's like I could have done better or whatever. It's all based off your own performance. So you have to learn how to accept. Like if you lose, well, that's on you. And I don't think a lot of people are, we live in a society where people like to point fingers at everything else. And it's like, wait, the mirror is right in front of you, though. Why aren't you looking into that? Nobody wants to do that. You know what I'm saying? It's an overarching thing. But, I think it's very admirable, your mom's work ethic. Listen, you talk, I mean, you don't hear people, even a lot of people nowadays, just being able to work to that degree, especially at her age, just working at factory, doing whatever she had to do. I mean, she made a lot of sacrifice for you, and that's a beautiful thing, man. I really admire that. So shout out to your mom.
Definitely.
Oh yeah. Shout out to everybody else you shout out to, because you had some amazing people around you. So you're very fortunate for that as well.
Yeah.
Now, going into the military, so you're in the military, right? And I want to bring up family. I'm a family man too. You met your wife. How old were you when you met your wife?
So it's probably about 12. And then she danced with me when I was in the 7th grade. She was in the 8th grade.
She gave you a chance.
No.
She just felt bad.
Yeah, she threw me a bone. That was it. She danced one dance. It didn't mean anything. I'm sure she remembers it, but it was not a memorable one for her.
Sympathy dance.
And she was a year older. And older girls in junior high do not date a younger boy.
Of course.
Especially one like me, that was not like growing a mustache in middle school or anything. I much look like a middle schooler. But we always stayed somewhat friends because we ended up being in the same circle of tennis.
Yeah. Heck yeah. That's awesome, man. And so for you always had a thing for her.
Correct.
That's actually really cool, man. But she was always just dismissive.
She always had a boyfriend. She was much more popular in school than I was. And one of the things that was great about her was that she gave people a chance. She was always voted most popular, and it wasn't because she was the most popular person.
It wasn't like Mean Girls, right?
Correct. Yeah, she was the most popular because she got votes from the popular people because she was nice to them. And, in school we had hoods and preps and all these different things when I was in school. But all the people who liked heavy metal music and would wear the Metallica and the Guns N' Roses when we were in high school, they liked her, even though she wore the turtlenecks and was a cheerleader. And all the kids who were really smart and in whatever DECA or Beta or those clubs liked her because she was literally nice to everybody.
She's just a kind person.
Exactly.
That's cool, man. And that shows through. Like kind people, you can feel that energy. So they'll attract anybody around them. You can inspire and move a lot of people by doing so. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, rather than being like making them fear you. Eventually that has an end.
It has been scientifically proven that doctors that are just nice to their patients and look their patients in the eyes and actually spend time to talk with them get sued so much less than the average doctor who is just in a rush and trying to meet the quota and trying to get in and out of the room as fast as they can because they've got notes to do and 5,000 other things that we have to do. But if you just sit in a room and you cry with the patient, I tell you for sure, you prescribe the wrong medication, they could even have a bad outcome with it. There's a good chance that as long as you admit that you were wrong, because nobody likes a liar, you admit that we have made mistakes before, they're not only not going to sue you, they're probably going to continue to come to you.
Nice, man. Yeah, because they're like, oh, this person's human as well. I can forgive that. Yeah, rather than like, well, they're already an asshole. Like, screw them. Yeah. It's interesting you point that out. It's like, you ever watch The Office?
I do.
It's like Michael Scott, I don't want to be feared. I want them to fear how much they love me or something along those lines. And I was like, there's something to that, right?
Right.
Yeah. Love The Office. Never gets old.
None.
But yeah, man. I mean, that's I never thought about that, man, as far as the doctors go. So it makes sense. But so she gave everybody a chance. She was really kind. And then, so how did things circle back around?
So I always, like I said, we always kind of kept in contact with her, and she could tell that I always crushed on her when we'd go play tennis or something like that. And then I didn't think we could afford college, so I actually joined the Air Force in the 11th grade. I did that delayed enlistment program, so I knew 11th grade. I was going in as soon as I graduated the next year.
Nice.
She actually went to Japan. She was a year ahead of me, so she went to Japan for a year and was a foreign exchange student. And then she came back, same thing, 11th to 12th grade. I hit a little growth spurt, and I wasn't the short kid. That I was still skinny as hell, but she came back and we kept talking. And finally, like before I went into the Air Force, I just kind of like spilled my guts. She still had a boyfriend who was gone, I think, to maybe basic training or went off to school because he was older than her. And I just wrote her this letter basically like, I love you and I've always loved you and all this. And she said, that is so sweet. And she hugged me. And then I went off to the Air Force. And then we kept in contact. And then 4 years later, I came home and I went to University of Tennessee for a small bit, for one semester actually, to do ROTC, and decided I need to get back to the Air Force. I'm not going to graduate at this school.
Yeah.
It was too much fun.
Yeah.
But in that interim time, I said, hey, I was just in town in McMinnville. I said, hey, you want to go on a date with me? And she's like, yeah, sure. And she said she hung up the phone and looked at her mom. She's like, he said the word date. Not just do you want to go see a movie. He said the word date. And they're like, you know, he's always had a crush on you, and got my first kiss that night.
Nice.
And just latched.
Nice. And then how old were you? You said like,
so that time, so I was 22.
Yeah.
So it was,
and that was it. That was game over.
Thanksgiving of 1999.
Dude,
and that was our dating anniversary. 25 years last Thursday.
You know, that sounded like corny. It's like a good love story, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And y'all been married 25 years?
We've been dating 25 years. We've been married. It'll be 24 years in January.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool, man.
I put a ring on it fast.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I got this. It's happening. That's so funny, man. When did you have your first kids?
So she had a child with a previous relationship, but he was young. He was 18 months when I came in. So he is my son. There's no other biological person in the picture or anything like that. He has my last name. We've offered, even if he ever wanted to meet that person, and no, he said, I have a father. So he's my kid. And then we wanted to not have him just be a lonely kid. So we had another one pretty quick. So it was before we were even married a year, our daughter was born.
Nice, dude.
And I thought we were done. We had a boy and a girl. And then about 8 years later, we had a whoops. And then about 4 years later, we had a whoops. And I said, I think I'm going to go to medical school. I got to see what's causing this. And then that was the last one. So we really have two sets of two kids is the way I look at it.
That's what it sounds like, yeah.
The older two could really help out a lot. They were self-sufficient by the time the next two had. We never had two in a diaper at the same time. I think people are crazy that do that.
That is wild, yeah.
But yeah, so they were able to help a lot. The older kids were. The only thing that I'll say is, like you were saying earlier, when you're younger, you're still figuring things out. So the two first kids really were the practice kids. So I feel like the second two kids have such a different childhood from what my older two kids had.
Yeah.
Where you were screaming and yelling and giving spankings. And the next two kids, you figure out you probably don't have to, you can threaten a spanking, and it kind of has the same impact sometimes.
Yeah.
So my son probably still has a flinch. He got spanked so much, whereas my youngest daughter, I don't know if she's ever had a spanking. So just crazy.
You know, speaking of spanking, it's actually pretty funny you say that, because like my daughter, I don't know like the level of like a spanking to give her. Like I don't really give her spankings. You know, she's 18 months, but you know, she does something bad or like whatever. Like she bit my finger the other day, hard as hell. So like you go to pop them on the leg, like no. Right. You know, but me, it's like like
it's almost a love tap.
Like my wife does it and she like cries. She doesn't like hit her hard, but she knows the pressure. For me as her dad, I'm like, well, I'm stronger, so I can't go overboard. Like what's the so it's like, and she just kind of laughs at me, and I'm like, you're supposed to be upset. Like you're supposed to know you did something wrong. This isn't a game. All right, you bit my damn finger.
Exactly. But
it's so much fun. I'm figuring that out too, man. But I love it, dude. Changing the diapers and doing all the things. Like I'm not too good for any of that, man. Like I love being a part of her life, and it's a blessing, man. Having a little girl too. We're working on a second one. So
I got one boy, 3 girls. So the 2 oldest, they're out of the house now. The 2 youngest are still in the house. So it's a good thing I'm colorblind, because I'm sure everything is just pink.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
my dog doesn't even have testicles. So
you're used to it by now.
Yeah.
So you had kids like a lot of your time through the Air Force and stuff like that. Did you have to deploy any?
98 and 99.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Saudi Arabia.
Oh yeah, you said that before we were recording. And you talked about, you were in that time frame. I don't know if this was with the earlier kids or later, but you were busting your butt to get to another level and you don't necessarily regret missing stuff because you wouldn't be where you're at today. But, I want you to share that perspective on that too, because I remember you brought that up.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's hard to look at any other way than just the selfish period of my life.
Yeah.
I had a very individualized goal. I knew I wanted to be a doctor, so B's were not an option. I wanted to have the best resume I could. The Air Force helped with that resume. Playing tennis, I knew would be another notch on that resume. Anything I can volunteer for, I would do, to the detriment, like I said, of missing a lot of those things when you look back on it.
Yeah.
And I still got to see them every night. I was still in my own house every night, sleeping in my own bed at least. But it was always, can we do this? And no, I have a tennis match. No, I've got class. No, I've got a test that's due. I've got a paper that's due. I felt like all I ever did with the older kids until they were 10 years old was say the word no. So that was just, it's difficult looking back on it.
Yeah. But, you created, an amazing future, right? I mean, it is what it is. Like, looking back on it, it is tough. I bring that up because, I'm in this point here where I'm here for at least 12 hours a day. Most of the day is like 14, 15 hours, and then almost every weekend, if I'm home, like I come in for a little bit and it's like, well, I gotta pay the bills. Yeah, it is kind of selfish, but it's like, I'm already all in. And it's just like, you want things you want at least a little breakthrough so you can create some breathing room there and whatnot, and it's really hard. So, I mean, I'm in here like 4 o'clock in the morning. So that way I do get good time with my daughter in the evenings, you know what I'm saying? And like actually get to spend time with her. But it does suck. And, I was traveling out to North Carolina. I was gone 5 weekends in a row. And my wife respected it. And I was like, babe, it's just like, I'm very empathetic. And I just like feel people's, what they're going through, and it's just such a powerful experience. Like, and you see it and you realize, God, they're in so much pain. They've lost it all. And like, I get to come home to my wife and daughter. So I'm like, I'm doing this for them. Like, this is beyond me. But at the same time, like, well, my family still needs me. My wife was honest. She's like, baby, we still need you here. And I was like, you know what? You're right. And I had to take a few weeks and space it out more. Like, I do have responsibilities and I do owe that time to them because my daughter is only 18 months once, and there's like, she's going to actually be able to experience this Christmas. Not like last year where she was just like, she's going to be ripping things open and walking around and doing stuff. And I don't want to miss out on that stuff. So it's tough, man. You're an entrepreneur, you've created your own path and it's taxing because there's such a sacrifice that comes along with it, But
definitely
also your kids see that. They see that sacrifice and it's also going to push them to be better, and then you're aware of it.
Right.
Some people move forward and they just blaze their trail. They got kids and they're 50, 60 years in age and they're like, that's what I do. And they don't recognize the fact that like, hey, they can't really own that, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So that awareness is the key right there. Yeah. And you make it up to them in your own ways, I'm sure.
I try to.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Well, thanks for sharing that with me. Now you met, you're married, you got married quick, working your way, you got out of there for us. You touched on, going through school and stuff like that, which I can imagine, man, working on a PhD with a family. Holy crap, dude.
Yeah, it was the medical school was no joke. The first 2 years for sure, it's no joke. When they talk about trying to drink from a fire hose, they're not lying.
Yeah.
Because it is almost, for people that weren't directly coming out of biology classes or something like that, because I had that break from school, a pretty significant break from school. So I had to jump right back in full time. It's a foreign language you're learning.
Yeah.
All these medical words, you're reading and studying and you realize, I don't know what 4 of the words in that sentence mean. Then you have to look up what those words are to be able to grasp the concept of what was right or wrong with that particular thing.
Yeah.
So medical school was very challenging.
Okay.
It was the same selfish period. The first 2 years, at least. The last 2 years, I kind of shined above my peers because I had already been a medic. I was used to talking with patients. So those last 2 years of medical school, you're done with the classwork and you're only in the hospital. You're doing those rotations.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, I'm the older guy. I'm the experienced guy. I've been there before. When I walked into the room, a lot of times, I was almost 40 years old. The patients thought I was a doctor,
Yeah.
So I got a lot of respect that these other people, and I don't want to call them kids because, you finish your undergrad when you're 22. So a lot of them are 24, 25 doing their rotations. As a young person to walk in and say, hey, I need to do a genital exam or one of those kind of really personal things, and a woman or a male might be like, yeah, I'll just take the attending doctor. You can sit this one out. So I did not receive that a lot. Now, in the women's health department, if you are an okay looking guy, a lot of times they don't want you down there. Yeah. So I did get asked to step out, but for the most part, I had a really easy time my last 2 years of medical school just because of the way I had a wrinkle or two on my face already.
Really?
A gray hair in my beard.
Yeah.
So that I shined and I felt like the stress was gone. I knew I was going to be a doctor.
Yeah.
When I got to those last 2 years, the first 2 years, every day I was like,
that's cool, man.
I got 50 more flashcards to memorize.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I can only imagine, man. I mean, even last semester I did 12 credits because I got my exercise science degree, but I want to be a licensed therapist to work with people one-on-one on the mental health side. So I'm going back for like psychology. And I was like, I'll throw 12 credit hours on top of this, my workload. Oh my God, I was about to lose my mind. I got through it. Best grades I've ever had in my life. All A's. I was pretty impressed, but I was like, maybe I need to get to where I can delegate things out before I jump back into that. Cause I know I'm like 2 classes away from grad school, but grad school, 2 classes is like 4 classes in undergrad.
Right.
And so I know I can't do that again. Just for here, I've already got enough going on. So I'm analyzing it differently. Like, hey, I've already got a lot going on. Like, this is a marathon. That's a marathon. Mm-hmm. But I need to be more proactive here. So that was a tough learning lesson. So I commend you, my friend, because the totally different kind of education, but still you're studying your butt off and still a lot of work to be done. So I love that though, man. So let's dive into what you do now. Mm-hmm. Let's get on some of these topics. I want to start off with this because it's a controversial one. Testosterone.
Okay.
All right. So you've got your feelings on it. I've got my feelings on it that probably are in line with yours. So why don't you jump in head first?
So I think as long as a physician rules out other causes, that testosterone is one of the most powerful things we can do for patients that are deficient in it, which usually is anybody at about mid to late 30s to mid to late 40s on. About age 28 for men, we're not only done making a great amount of testosterone, but now we're starting to decrease by about 1% per year. Every year, we're getting a little bit lower. There's a book by one of the people that I trained under named, if your testosterone is low, you're going to get fat. Just genius title. Yeah. But that's really the book's name. But it is true. It is 100% true. Our metabolic rate changes, our energy levels change, our moods change. Mm-hmm. People say these things of, oh, he's just a crotchety old man. That's true.
Yeah.
Your mood has changed. That guy's got 4 testosterone molecules floating through his whole body. Of course he's pissed off. His libido is 0, so he's not getting laid. His sleep is shit, so he's not resting well. He doesn't have any strength. And even if he did work out, the amount of time it takes for him to recover from that workout is quadrupled. So why wouldn't you be a crotchety old man? So you give that same crotchety old man some testosterone, and what happens? Well, all of a sudden, that libido is up. Energy level starts to increase. Quality of sleep starts to increase. It's more fun to work out when you actually can have improvements in your strength and you can work out again the next day because you're not so sore.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, your mood is improved.
So basically, it goes from, dull and grim to like a Viagra commercial without the Viagra.
Exactly.
Just replace it with testosterone.
Exactly.
People don't understand.
And it's just, there are people out there that don't prescribe it right, and they do it inadequately. There are people that do it as an algorithm, which anything that's an algorithm is usually something that's repeatable. So you can guess that those are clinics that are most likely franchised. We'll just say, I don't want to call anybody out.
Yeah.
And then there are people who actually understand testosterone and care about you, and they are going to not only monitor you accurately, but they're going to keep you in that optimal level.
Yes.
Like you were talking about. So insurance companies only recognize total testosterone. If they follow the endocrinologist, then they say that number is 200. If you're less than 200 for your total, let's do it. If you're less than 300, they're looking at the urology recommendations, and they say if your total is less than 300, let's do it.
Which are still so insanely low.
They're not only insanely low, but free testosterone is the only testosterone your body can use.
Yeah.
Insurance companies don't recognize free testosterone, even though both of the Endocrinology Association and the Urology Association both say they should be much higher. They should be somewhere, depending on what unit. We're going to use the unit that my lab uses, which is 15 to 25. If you make it into the same unit that total testosterone is reported in, it would be 150 to 250. They say that's what it should be. Total testosterone, though, has a percentage of it that is free. And that percentage, if you're looking at that 15 to 25 number, is 1 to 2%. So how low is your free testosterone if you're not going to replace it until you get to 200 if you're down at 1%?
Yeah.
How high does your total testosterone have to be if you're shooting to put someone in that optimal range of 15 to 25?
15 to 20. So I'm just curious. So like 1,500 to 2,500?
No,
Like
15 to 25.
Okay, the free, yes.
Of the free.
Okay.
So if you do it and you push it over to the same units as testosterone, that 150 to 250, and about 20% of that should be free, then it's 200, which means 20% of what is 200? 1,000.
Okay.
1,000, you are above the normal limit for every single lab in this country for total testosterone, much less are you above the limit of endocrinology and urology saying this is how low it should be before you even start it. So they want you to be the crotchety old man with 4 molecules of testosterone floating around in your whole body before they'll even approve getting it started. And because insurance covers it, somehow that got backdoored into medical school. That's what the recommendation is in medical school.
Yeah, so they're just
So that's what we're being taught.
Yeah, so a lot of doctors are, because I've had clients that I'm like, hey, get blood work. It's one of the first things I suggest anybody I know do. I mean, hell, people that aren't even clients, and they're like, oh, I went to the doctor. They said I'm good. I'm in the average window, and I'm like, yeah, do you know what the average window is? Like, it's not optimal. That's not an area you want to be in. You want to be above that. But a lot of people don't, because someone says they're a doctor, they take that as fact and how it's supposed to be. But then I'm like, no, there's doctors out there that care, that actually know how it should be,
right,
to have you at the best health you can be. So I think that's a big problem too, because it seems like that average answer is most widespread.
It is. It's not just widespread amongst the public. It's widespread amongst the medical community, to the point to where a lot of my people, even though they respect me as a doctor, when they get a patient that is their patient's, let's say it's their primary care doctor, and they get that result back of that total testosterone, let's say it's something crazy like 1,300.
Yeah.
But their free is perfect. It's at 18, right where it needs to be feeling optimal, somewhere in that middle, and usually 18 or 180 if you convert it over to the other units. A guy, at least, feels great at those numbers. Things are clicking. Everything is where it should be.
Yeah.
You're not red-faced. You're not in there making crazy games. Your back is not full of acne. You don't have roid rage. None of those things. You're just where you should be.
Yeah.
I'll get a phone call from that primary care doctor saying, hey, I don't know what's going on, but I'm really uncomfortable with this total testosterone being 1,300. I don't know if you might want to adjust the dose, or what do we need to do to bring this number down? That patient is not a piece of paper.
Yeah.
That's what the problem is. In medical school, we get taught you treat the patient and you treat the number. Two things. Okay? They're not ever to be separated. There are certain things when you're looking at someone you don't know. I don't know what your blood pressure is right now just by looking at you. So I have to be dependent on a number. And then I get that number and I take the number and I say, well, does this make sense? What symptoms are you having? Are you having headaches? Are you having blurry vision? Okay, this is something I should treat. We got a number. We got a patient with complaints. Let's fix it.
Okay.
And in the same breath, if someone comes to me and their testosterone is in the gutter, and I'm just checking their numbers because I take concierge patients where I'm just their private doctor. And let's say one of those patients come in and their free testosterone is 5. It's in the gutter. And they have no complaints. I'm not starting them on testosterone. There's no reason to put anything unnatural into our patients, even though I consider the hormones more of a natural thing for our patients. There's no reason for me to take that risk and put a needle into their butt twice a week just so I can feel better about a number on a piece of paper. If they're already telling me I'm horny all the time, I sleep great, I work out every day, my muscle mass is fine, and I don't have any complaints, I'm not going to say, well, it could be better.
Yeah.
That's already as good as it gets, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. You don't need to be that whole next level necessarily.
Yeah, I just want to be good enough at the guitar to play any Polyphia song. You know, if I can do that, I'll be good.
Polyphia?
Mm-hmm.
It's they're like a prog metal band, aren't they?
I don't even know what to classify them in. He plays, half the time it'll be like a heavy metal flamenco song, and then the other half it'll just be in what that guy can do on a guitar is insane for how young he is.
Somebody showed me them. They're pretty. Well, it's a solo act or what?
No, it's a full group.
I think I got them on my phone because it's actually pretty solid.
The guitarist shines for sure, and he's always the head guy. But their drummer, the timing that he keeps, because of the way that the guy is playing the guitar, it is not your standard 4/4 time or anything like that. It's all over. And that drummer keeps that whole band in tune or in time so he can play everything. And every one of the artists are just as good as they get. They don't sing in any of their songs. It's all just music.
It's all instrumental stuff. Yeah. Is it? So you're a metal guy.
I like every type of genre of music.
Yeah. Yeah. Metal's my thing. I love synthwave. I just like that chill sound. I love classical stuff mostly, but metal's my thing. I listen predominantly like black metal, and
I mean, I can listen all the way up to as growling death metal. I used to go to the National Guard Armory in McMinnville. We had a group called APOC Death. That we would watch. But my cousin in Detroit, he's actually been in a metal band for 20 years called Fell Ruin, which they've never made it big anywhere, but he just loves playing.
Yeah.
He always plays on a 7-string Jackson. Actually, that's
nice.
I can't do anything with that extra string. So I won't even pick his guitar up. I'm struggling with my 6.
Yeah, it's only in the way for you. Yeah, hell yeah. No, I appreciate that when people can just get a little bit more intricate with it. I love metal, man. So, anyways. Now, back to testosterone. I don't know if you want to attach anything else to that, because I had a couple questions about the testosterone, but if you want to continue.
No, you fire your questions.
Have testosterone levels, the average window, right, that's on paper at the whatever doctor's office, has it changed over the years? Because you would suggest that like the average window.
Per insurance, no.
Okay.
They only look at total.
Okay, so you wouldn't say like, okay, they got this window you're supposed to be in 50 years ago, it would have looked like this. Now it's evolved and lowered.
So I can't speak intelligently to 50 years ago, but I can tell you, over the last 15 years for sure, it's stagnant. Despite the influx of low T clinics and these other agencies that, while I don't love how they do things, they at least have brought it more mainstream.
Yeah.
The levels, it really takes a lot of science and a lot of reading, and reading for a specific purpose, as opposed to just reading to memorize what levels should I be looking at or trying to get someone to, finding what these things are that actually should happen at these levels that will make the people feel good.
Yeah.
And for females, we touched on it when we were off air, but females in the United States, it's not even FDA approved for testosterone.
Really?
And England, like I said, over 60 years, it's been prescribed. A lot of the females who get testosterone now from someone that's not a specialist like me with the hormone stuff is only because there are a few name brand testosterone pellets where these primary care doctors can get paid a procedure fee to insert these pellets.
Okay.
But to all that, I get so many patients that are on HRT and they come to me and I see what their levels are and I tell them that they are not good. And they say, I've told them I don't feel good. I told them it's not good. Yet, do I feel better than when I started? Sure, a little bit, maybe for the first few days after, but I'll get people taking 1 shot every 2 weeks. The half-life of testosterone is 6 days for the type that most people use, testosterone cypionate, 6 days. 8 days, possibly. That means half of the medication is gone from your body, and you've given someone a medication that's going to decrease what they were making to begin with. So as that medication exits the body, you're probably putting them into a gutter that's lower than when they even started testosterone therapy with you, but they're taking the same risk of, could I get an injection infection? Because you are putting a needle into someone's skin. Could I have an allergic reaction to this medication? Because while testosterone is a hormone, the cottonseed oil or sesame oil is a foreign substance to your body. If you only dose it at a 200 milligrams, let's say every 14 days, you're putting someone into such an astronomical level those first few days that they go into what we call a peak. And most times that peak is too high, and then they'll aromatize over into estrogen. So now you got to put someone on a second medication to block the estrogen because they've gone too high. And then they go into this gutter where they feel like crap. Interesting. And it's those peaks and troughs where those side effects really start to come in.
So, and I'm curious too, especially because you get maybe a lot of the audience that doesn't really understand if they should be. Maybe they don't know what side effects they should be looking for. Maybe you're sitting at home or in the car and they're listening to this. They're like, man, I feel like crap. So, especially for women, what would you say would be side effects that they should pay attention to, or things that they should pay attention to in order to like get blood work done that they may need testosterone?
Yeah, so mood instability is the biggest thing. And I don't mean to be funny, like, oh, you're just going through your menstrual cycle and you're having that change in your female hormones. But mood instability is where most of my females will say the exact same statement of, I don't feel like myself.
Yeah.
That is not just a phase. That's something going on. Now, could it be something like depression, anxiety? Was there something we can point to that's causing it? I always check thyroid levels and the other hormone levels to make sure there's not something that mimics a low testosterone, to make sure I'm not covering up a more serious problem.
Yeah.
But saying a statement that you don't feel like yourself, that's a powerful statement for a patient to say. And a doctor, a little antenna should go up.
Yeah.
If a patient says that to you.
Yeah.
It's not just in their head. If they say that, if they say their energy levels are just low, I sleep all the time, I don't know why I'm tired. Well, you say that to a doctor and you're almost certainly going for a sleep study. You've obviously got sleep apnea, so there's all these things that mimic other problems. So we rule those out. And if those are all ruled out and all that is left is low testosterone levels, it's the testosterone. A lot of my female patients don't even have to take the other female hormones, the estrogen and the progesterone. They only have to take testosterone, and that alleviates the symptoms that they're having almost completely.
Yeah, like a night and day change.
Exactly.
Like I said, my wife got on it, and then, it was that shift. It was powerful for her.
And it's not night and day. For men, you start feeling those results about 2 weeks, but we're hitting a much higher dose. Most females are at somewhere around 10% a dose of what males take. So females, it usually takes 4 to 5 weeks before they start seeing that first effect. And the first effect, whether they like it or not, is almost always libido. Yeah. It's a very tangible effect to be like, I'm thinking about sex a lot more. And then those other things start to come in, that increased mood, the better quality of sleep, better workouts, better recovery time. Those all continue to improve for about the first 18 months.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing. You just got to stick with it. You can't take a shot. I didn't like the shot, not do it for a week, take the shot, not do it for a week. You have to have that 4 to 5 weeks of consistent, timely injections for females before you get any of those benefits.
Thank you for sharing that. Now hopefully that helps people kind of figure out, hey, steps they need to take moving forward within their own life, and it's interesting you talk about, since we're on hormones, how just fragile they actually are. Being in like lifting weights and stuff, like you know, there's other things out there, right? And I'm not ashamed. Like I've tried to, you know, I'm one of those guys like, oh, I'll try that, just see what it does, you know. But I've never been a big proponent of like consistently doing some of this stuff because I realize like the long-term effects. And years ago, my buddy gave me a little bottle of like Tren. And I was like, I'll try it out, see how jacked I can get. And it definitely worked. But dude, I was temperamental as shit. I'm already kind of an emotional person. And so I was temperamental as hell, like unrecognizably. And dude, I would just have moments where I'd like be overwhelmed with stress and I'd start crying. I'd just cry. I was so emotional. Yeah. I was like, dude, I hate this feeling. Like it's cool doing deadlifts and lifting some weights, but outside of that, I did not like it, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I do a secondary service, I guess, in the hormone department, in that we've got a pretty decent bodybuilder community in Murfreesboro. I'm sure everybody knows we've got Brandon Curry here, Mr. Olympia a few years ago, and that brings a lot of attention to the area too.
He's been on this.
Yeah. So we bring patients in, and they'll have their own hormone regimen, and I work with them and the trainer. I do the blood work, so I'm very familiar with all of the anabolics that are not prescribed by a doctor.
Yeah.
And most of the trainers have become very receptive. If I say, hey, we have pushed it too hard, the liver numbers are starting to change too much, I think we need to pull back. I've literally had trainers pull someone out of a competition prep because it was just too taxing on the body for that particular
wasn't worth the risk.
Tren, I'll tell you, out of every illegal steroid that there is, I hate that one the most.
Yeah.
The dreaded Trendic, the Tren cough, the uncontrollable anger when you look at those things that people consider are those side effects of steroids, of roid rage and doing this, you can say it's Tren. It's almost always Tren. Just take it away. And there's a medication that used to be around and used in the 60s that is now called Masteron. Masteron is the baby brother of Tren, and it has an estrogen blocker built into it. It used to be used so you could give hormone therapy to females who had breast cancer. Because you cannot give testosterone to a female that's had breast cancer, because no matter how hard you try, some is going to convert into estrogen. So if they had an estrogen-dependent breast cancer, you're asking for trouble.
Oh, okay.
So they used to give Masteron. So they felt great because they still got those benefits of having some hormones in their body. It just wasn't estrogen that is going to further worsen their breast cancer issue. But now they came out with what they call Novadex or tamoxifen, which is a really powerful estrogen blocker, which a lot of breast cancer patients honestly don't love the way it makes them feel. It's a pretty brutal chemotherapeutic type drug. I know in the gym world, people just use it because they think it's a more level estrogen blocker for men. But Masteron, unofficially, since I am a legal doctor, would be something that I would say would be a better option than Tren ever is.
Yeah.
The benefits are not as strong. You are not going to have those strength improvements as fast as you do with Tren, for sure. And I know this is controversial for a doctor to talk about, but it is a much more level option for someone out there who is just going by bro science. If they're going to experiment, throw the Tren back at the person. And if you have to stick something illegal in your body, that is a better option.
Your unofficial opinion is valued because, like, you know, at the end of the day, like, younger people are getting into this stuff more too. So it's, if you're going to jump into that, which personally I think like wait a while.
Yes.
But if you're going to, choose the better options, because like, yeah, I mean, I like I said, I saw firsthand. I want to try it out, see what it did. I like the strength. That was about it. And but mentally it made me miserable. And right now, as much stress as piles on and task have, I don't know. I joked to my wife, I was like, should I do Tren again? She's like, please don't. You know, and I wasn't like violent towards her or anything, but she noticed like it definitely didn't make me the same. And I don't know, I remember talking to a guy that's been on it for years, and he was like, oh, it doesn't affect me. And I'm like, what have you just like gotten so used to it? Like, maybe your whole personality shifted and you're just embraced that by now, or
if
what?
Your baseline is asshole. Tren is perfect.
I guess makes sense. Yeah, that's funny. But well, thanks for sharing that. Is there anything else you want to discuss as far as hormones go in that realm, or you're pretty good there?
I think I'm good there.
Okay. I was kind of looking into doing some research on y'all's site and just kind of seeing what kind of stuff y'all offered. And I think it'd be good information for a lot of people. Y'all do like injectables, Botox, and I think Dysport.
That's another one. Yep.
Yeah. So, what are the difference between those two?
So
Because everybody knows
they're
Botox.
brand name differences, and each one of the sales reps will try to tell you to carry it in your office for a different reason. They are all some form of a botulinum toxin. So when you see that swollen, dented can at the grocery store that's got botulinum in it and causes botulism where you can die, they extracted that and they said, well, paralyzing someone's diaphragm so they die isn't the best thing, but what if we could just paralyze their forehead? And that's what those medications do for Dysport, Botox. Jeuveau is a new one. There's lots of them.
The way you said that, though, doesn't make it sound very appealing with the botulism. But that's just the facts. That's the science behind it.
I mean, there are a lot of medications that are out there. Who would have thought the gross moldy bread was going to be the thing that saved people's lives for centuries with penicillin?
That's a good point.
Or for a century, I guess, not centuries yet.
It's like taking something negative or as seen as negative, and I guess it applies to life in general, and using it for something positive or something helpful, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, the side effects that have been used in medications as opposed to what they were actually made for is fascinating.
Yeah.
Viagra is for pulmonary hypertension. That's what sildenafil was made for. But all these guys with pulmonary hypertension all of a sudden started being happy and they started standing up. They came out with a drug that was supposed to help make the skin tan for really white individuals without having to go into the sun so that they would have a lower incidence of skin cancer. And they noticed that all these females suddenly had a huge burst in their libido. And now we have a medication called Vyleesi, or if you look at it from the peptide name, it's PT141.
Interesting.
So these side effects are crazy.
Are there any negative side effects? Or
if you go to someone who doesn't know how to do it, yes, they will paralyze a muscle that you might want that may hold up your eyebrow or let your lips smile.
So you could be permanently walking around with your eyebrow just like
you could be permanently for about 4 months because the body sees it as a toxin and it'll go in and it'll remove it.
Okay.
The body is great at getting more efficient at things. So the longer someone does Botox, the more likely their body is going to adapt to it. And that Botox that should normally last 3 to 4 months will start lasting 1 to 2 months. If you work out a lot, your body gets really good at removing toxins from muscles like lactic acid. So people that work out, a lot of times they'll only get about 1.5 to 2 months out of these botulinum toxins.
Oh, okay.
But in my clinic, I go for a very natural appearance. And I want, especially in my male patients, I want there to be movement that is possible to at least trick people.
Yeah.
So like with me, I'm knocking on 50's door. I definitely have a face full of Botox right now, but I can still move things. You can still hopefully tell that I'm smiling and happy. It's just, you don't see a full forehead of wrinkles. You don't see all of my crow's feet. So I'd make it stay.
I got more than
natural.
You probably.
Probably, maybe. I'm just less natural than you are.
Yeah.
But yes, there can definitely be side effects. It's still a medication. It's still a needle going in the skin. There can be infections. There can be allergic reactions. There can be complications from those. Like I said, the biggest complication is you go to an injector who doesn't know what they're doing and they paralyze a muscle they shouldn't have.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, before your wedding, don't go to the guy that's cutting you a deal. Go to somebody reputable.
That Groupon deal for cosmetics is never a good idea.
Hell, there probably is one.
Oh, for sure. $8 a unit.
Good God, that's nuts. Well, thanks for sharing that. Now, skin treatments. You do microneedling, chemical peels. Like, what is all this stuff? And like, what are the expectations from them?
Yeah, so the purpose of that is to fast forward the body's ability to heal itself.
Yeah.
Through just normal living, we get accosted every day by wind and debris in the air and the sun smacking us in the face and all these pollutants and not taking care of our skin. And our skin tries to heal it.
Yeah.
And it does it in several different ways. Sometimes it'll do it by trying to make it thicker, so you'll start getting deposits of skin on your face. You'll see the little ones on people's face. I think I have one somewhere on my forehead right now.
Yeah.
Where it's called sebaceous hyperplasia. You start having skin color changes. So when you do something like microneedling or a chemical peel, or even when you step up and you do a laser, what you're doing is you're trying to purposely injure the skin equally over the entire surface area so that the body tries to repair it all at once. So everything is just a blank slate that's getting started. So microneedling is probably the lowest as far as the injury, even though it sounds more severe.
Yeah.
Having needles thrust in your face. It's similar to a tattoo gun. You know, it's sitting there going in at a few thousand RPM of 12 needles at a time. Some people will put platelet-rich plasma. Some people will put hyaluronic acid. But really, you're just going for let me injure the skin so that it'll stimulate collagen so that the skin will try to heal itself, reduce the signs of wrinkles, increase the youthful appearance of the skin. Lasers try to pull off some of the skin damage, so those sunspots that people will get. Chemical peels can be a little bit to almost peel your face off strong. They're as strong as you can make the chemical peel because they're all different levels of acid that you're putting on the face. So you can get anywhere from being just a little bit red and some flaky skin after a few days up to really having big pieces of skin fall off your face like you got a really bad sunburn. And then the lasers go from just a little laser up to what's called a CO2 laser, where you look like a burn victim for literally a week plus afterwards. But the bigger the risk, the bigger reward when you're talking about. So that's like the
laser rejuvenation stuff?
That is as laser rejuvenated as you can get when you get to the CO2. Really? I don't do that one. I don't love that one.
Yeah, why not?
It's a week of downtime, and when I say you look like a burn victim, just Google CO2 laser patient.
I'm gonna write this down.
Not pretty. So most people won't take the social time off from life to go through that. So they'll do something like the Morpheus, which I hate to say on the air, but that's a brand name, where they do needles going into your skin, but it's not just needles. I step on a pedal and it shoots radio frequency through it, which is just a big jolt of energy, basically. Nice. So it's a much more powerful stimulant to make the body try to heal itself. It'll really pull out wrinkles. Depending on what depth you go, you can even melt fat. You can make scars be greatly diminished, if not go away.
Yeah.
So it's all in the hands of the person using it, the energy and the depth that they're going, and the modality that they're trying to deliver that injury to you. But they're all injuries for the most part.
That's wild. So you're just injuring to
so the body will do itself. So you're really not doing anything. Your body, your patient's body is doing the work. You're just hurting them purposefully.
I must ask, so have you tried you got all these practices you do? Are you one of those people that's like, hey, I don't do it unless I've tried it? You know what I'm saying?
I am a strong supporter of guinea pigging.
Yeah.
So if it is something that I thought I could benefit from to where I would really be able to see the benefit, then yes, I've done it. So the Morpheus thing, I have had those needles stuck in my face with the electricity going through it. My wife, of course, she's my office manager, so she guinea pigs if it's something more female-centric. I don't have stretch marks, so we had to get someone else to come in to test that. The tech that I have, she has been a friend of ours. My wife and mine, she went to the same junior high.
Okay.
Bless her heart. She was my driver's ed partner, and I did not know how to drive. So we almost killed Tina about 35 times, we being me. So Tina and Cecily, they'll hold their hands up. Most times be like, I'll try it.
Yeah.
So very trusting. And I do want to preface, because I'm sure there are females out there, probably more than males, that are just dying at how I'm describing these procedures. But I am a male, and I make them sound about as worse as they possibly can. And I'm never trying to be a salesperson when I'm in the room. And I'm sure that they position these things a lot better than I do. And they're just dying at how I'm describing these. So I don't mean any offense when I describe these procedures this way. Females, and especially my esthetician that's in the office, is going to tell you something that sounds much better than needles with electricity going through them in your skin, but you'll look great, you know, so don't let me sell you something. And I hope you don't get 1,000 comments from estheticians, nurse practitioners, female doctors, whoever it might be, who talk about this more, let's say, educated. I just am very blunt with what's going on when we talk about these.
Hey, that's simple though. You're not the sales guy. That's okay. Yeah, I know. Like you walk out the door and like, hey, we're supposed to be like getting clients. Right? This is not working out.
I just like to paint an accurate picture of what's going to go down.
Hey, we know our lanes. Mm-hmm. You know where you stay, and they know where they help out. So
exactly.
But it is funny when you paying like that with the needles and the electricity. I mean, you talked about tattoos and the microneedling and feeling like that. I'm like, damn, I'm covered in tattoos, and I made a video of this because there's an assumption that I like love the pain or whatever. I've learned to love the pain. I'm like, no, actually it sucks. It's actually sucking worse the older I get. I'm not sitting for as many hours at a time now. I said, but I just love the outcome. I think you could say it's the same thing. Like, hey,
it is.
It's not going to be the most fun to get done, but you'll be happy afterward.
And I'm a nice doctor, so we use really strong topical numbing solutions. We have something called Pronox, where it's the nitrous oxide like you'd expect to get at the dentist, except a little safer in my opinion. Not that it's not safe with the dentist, but we have to monitor a little bit less because our mix is lower. So we can give you a little laughing gas. We give you the topical numbing. I can do full blocks since I'm a doctor that's in the office. So we make it as comfortable as possible. But that being said, it's still going to have some discomfort. You are injuring the skin.
Yeah. You just gotta rock with it.
Yep.
Look forward to the outcome.
Exactly.
I guess when it comes to these treatments, what would you say that's out there that is extremely overrated in your opinion? And then what are some things that you may say are the most underrated things to help people?
So the most overrated is definitely any diet that has come out in the past. I'm 47 years old, so 47 years old.
Yeah.
If someone's come out and said, this is the way to do X, that is not a good diet.
Yeah.
That diet worked for that person, and then they tried to monetize it. That's all we got.
Yes.
If you look out into the world and you can see something that you can eat and you can eat it that way, that's the way we should eat. So
yes.
Unfortunately, you cannot pick a piece of bread in nature. So is bread a good food that we should be putting on our body on a regular basis? No.
Yeah.
Now, can you go and pick anything, processed rice? And I eat a lot of rice. No. So is it something we should just be bombarding our body with? No, we should not. Can you pick an apple? Yes. If you gave me a steak, could I show you exactly where that came from on a cow? For sure. Could I show you where a chicken nugget came from? The hell, I could not. So I just tell people trying to eat the majority of your food as it looks in nature is the best thing for you. Will I eat a chicken nugget? I have 4 kids. I have surely eaten lots of chicken nuggets in my life out of just utter desperation to get someone to be quiet so that we could get through it.
Yeah.
Alcohol, I drink a bourbon. I like bourbon. For people who don't like alcohol, that is fine too. I don't care. I serve bourbon in my clinic. I practice what I preach across the board. As far as underrated, that would be the most underrated thing too, of just the diet of you should just eat foods that look as close to how they are in nature as possible. And what I call them is the 4 rights. So if you have the right food, the right sleep, the right workout, and the right, I call it meditation, you can call it prayer, whatever you want to, but if you have some place where you reset your head, those 4 things will basically put me out of work.
Nice.
And that's fine. Just
not nice. Put you out of work. No,
I'll make a living some other way.
Yeah, man. I think that's really cool that you put it like that, and that you're willing to just say, hey, get these things right. Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't going to focus on that, and but I'm in agreement with you on all that stuff. Just think that you eating the right foods and sleeping well. I mean, that could help your skin, benefit your skin. You're eating the right foods, your testosterone levels are going to be fine. Just all this different stuff it all comes down to what you're putting in your body. Yeah, Friday nights, sweets night. Me and my wife, I get Ben and Jerry, or not Ben and Jerry's, we get like Baskin Robbins, and I get 2 triple cups with like Reese's topping on. I know this is bullshit for my body, but you know what? That's my once a week thing. I'm going to be on top of my stuff.
Right.
But, at the end of the day, it's not going to benefit me in the long run, but the eggs and the meat and stuff will. And one thing I want to point out too, because you talked about someone coming up and being like, this is the way to eat. But you get a lot of coaches and stuff on there that are like, work with me. This is what I eat. This is my meal plan. Everybody is different.
Correct.
Just like when I'm training a client back there. Hey, do this lift. Do you feel that engagement? No, not really. Should you feel it? Yeah, you should feel it here. No. Okay, let's angle things a little bit differently. Mechanically, we're all a little bit different. Yeah. Everybody's different. My biggest advice I'd give to people is when it comes to diet, nutrition, try everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a journey. You're not going to figure out overnight. That's why I never do cookie cutter shit. Hey, let's focus on kicking out the bad stuff first.
Right.
That you don't need, and then we'll make progress from there, see what works. Because I'm looking for like, hey, I want to improve your life
Right.
down the road. And I don't say, hey, eat like me, but this is what I do. This is what I've tried, you know, and so we try different things. But yeah, a lot of people sell just right what you said, like, don't pay attention to people that just sell you a meal plan because doesn't mean it's going to work.
Right.
It works for them. And you don't know what else they're doing anyways. But yeah, thank you for pointing that out. And it's a doctor said that, guys. So can't discredit it. No, but hey, overrated, underrated, nutrition.
Nutrition. 100%. And overrated, I will also throw in supplements. Oh. Because people have gotten into the mindset now that supplements are the staples. And it's just not so. I can't believe this still happens. I still had it done today. Patients will come in and they'll be like, should I be taking creatine? That in what context? Are you working out every day? Are you hitting plateaus? Why are you wanting to supplement what you're already doing? What are you already doing? So when patients ask me that, what supplements are you taking? Or they see that Chris Bumstead, which I think he's got a phenomenal physique and work ethic, when they see his line of products and they're like, man, I should be taking this. And they're so full of protein powder and pre-workout and glutamine and 64 other pills, and they don't even know what those pills are for. And I was like, did you eat anything today? Did you chew something? Did you put a chicken breast in your mouth or some type of actual food so your gut biome will break stuff down and you get a little bit of practice for doing what your gut's supposed to do?
Yeah.
And no, they're so concerned with what can I do to supplement that'll get me there faster. And it's always that word. It's always faster.
Yeah.
You know, if you can work hard and eat right and get in good shape, if you do that with $500 worth of supplements a month, you can do that a lot faster. And it's just not true.
Yeah.
I hear people all the time, oh, this guy put on this many pounds of muscle mass, this many pounds of muscle mass. If your hormones are perfect, if your diet is perfect, meaning you have the exact right amount of overage of calories and you lift like a madman every single day that you are supposed to, in 1 year, you can put on between 5 and 7 pounds of lean mass. That's it.
Yeah.
That's even if you threw that trend into the picture, you're not getting much more than that. Can you gain more weight and muscles when you do an in-body scan? Sure, because things like testosterone and creatine will shove more water into your muscles so they look bigger.
Yeah.
And you won't have an increase is in regards to your body fat percent. So your brain says, oh, I've increased my muscle mass 15 pounds. The hell.
Yeah.
You haven't. And all I got to do is put you through a 6-week prep of cutting your calories and pulling the water out of your diet, and I'll show you exactly how much lean mass you put on.
Really?
And you see that all the time with bodybuilders who do their bulks. And then when they cut down, they're like, they deflated. What happened? And it was because they removed a lot of those agents like the anabolic steroids that increase the amount of plasma that goes into those muscles so you can work out longer because you're getting more protein and amino acids, you're getting more lactic acid pulled away. But then when you go through that dehydration period, you shrivel.
Dang.
You know?
Yeah.
So supplements need to stay as a supplement. When you hit a plateau and let's say you're trying to gain weight and you just cannot chew another dang pound of ground bison, sure, throw in a few scoops of protein because you need the protein to gain, but you just can't physically eat enough.
Yeah.
Or if you're really stepping up your diet, then that's the time when you take those digestive enzymes. You don't take digestive enzymes just for shits and giggles. Let your liver and let your pancreas do what it's supposed to do. I see a lot of trainers, they'll throw someone on TUDCA is the biggest thing that they throw people on. I don't think trainers know what TUDCA does half the time. TUDCA is deoxycholic acid. That's what your bile is made of. It is to break down fat. That is it. So unless you are putting your client on an extremely high fat, meaning you're going to do a dirty bulk, why are they taking TUDCA? Why can't their liver break down the amount of fat that you are telling them to eat every day? Now, milk thistle, I love milk thistle. I love glutathione. If you're doing something that is a little shaky with your liver, which we know some of those illegal things are, take milk thistle, take glutathione to help clean that liver out. But TUDCA's not going to clean the liver out.
Yeah.
It's helping to break down fats.
Oh, maybe I'd benefit from TUDCA. I mean, because I do such high fat. I'm like 180 grams of fat a day.
Well,
in the evening. But I mean, I don't know. I feel good.
Well, like I said, I love Superman, but my x-ray vision is not good. So pull a liver panel. If your liver is doing fine, it's doing fine.
Liver is doing fine last time I checked.
Are you going to put a brace on your knee when it's not hurting in case it starts hurting?
Maybe.
No, because it's going to weaken the muscles around your
Yeah,
knee, right?
exactly.
So why are you taking away the process that body part is supposed to be doing already?
Yeah, like putting the belt on and all the stuff. Like some of it's pointless. And you know, I'm I'm the same. I'm with you on the supplements, you know, and I know people that have supplement companies, not knocking it, but I don't know. I don't want to have to spend a huge part of my money that comes in towards a bunch of supplements I don't need when you can get it all through nutrition. Now we're shifting to something big time nowadays.
Okay.
Goes by semaglutide.
Right.
Did I say that right?
I say semaglutide. A lot of people say semaglutide. I don't care how you say it.
So let's touch on that, man. You know, that's a pretty controversial thing. So obviously there's a lot of people that are against it, a lot of people that are for it.
Correct. So the first thing is I want to dispel the myth that these people are cheating, because they are not cheating. It is like saying you're cheating by taking an antidepressant when you get depressed. There is a physiologic change that happens when you start to become overweight called insulin resistance.
Yeah.
Semaglutide decreases insulin resistance. It makes you more sensitive to the insulin in your body, which means you can utilize those sugars for energy better. It also slows down the gut, which can be complications. Of course, with that slowing of the gut, you can get constipation. You can get all the way to gastroparesis, where the gut completely freezes, and that's a medical emergency. You have to go to the hospital for that. But it is not a cheat. If someone is depressed to the point that they need a medication, the best thing is for them to start counseling and for them to take an antidepressant. Now, Church of Scientology might hate me for that one. Get you another click on that one saying that name. But with working out, yes, you can get healthy working out. If I increase your insulin sensitivity by giving you semaglutide while you're working with a trainer, you're going to do it a much more efficient way.
Yeah.
And this is not faster like a supplement, because we're not talking about efficiency of getting it done just faster. We're talking about doing it in a more healthy manner of decreasing the damage that was done to the body. Just like those antidepressants, that serotonin, that pathway gets messed up when we get depressed for too long. Yes, counseling by itself would probably work at some point, but doing an antidepressant with counseling, all the studies show that it works better.
Yeah.
Doing a medically managed weight loss medication like semaglutide or tirzepatide, which is the other latest and greatest one, with doing a healthy lifestyle, because everything I tell patients, I tell them this is not to lose weight. It is just a reset of what you should be doing as a healthy individual forever.
Yeah.
So I don't have any grand calorie restrictive diets. I make them get on the shape scale, which is a 3D body scanner. It shows what their basal metabolic rate is. It shows what their lean body mass, their body fat percent. I'll show them exactly how many calories they need to keep their lean body mass alive just by blinking. And you can't go below that. And I'll know if you went below that, because your lean body mass percent will drop if you lose weight faster than I want you to. And if you still don't believe it, I'll make you pee in a cup. And if you're breaking down muscle because you're not eating enough, you're going to spill ketones. So having a doctor that understands how these work and not going to the run-of-the-mill weight loss clinic is extremely important.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody makes them do the shape scale. A lot of places have this InBody, which InBody can be good as long as it's ran by someone who knows what they're doing. The person is fasted. The person hasn't had water within several hours of doing their InBody, because you chug water and my lean muscle mass just went up. How'd that happen?
Yeah.
It's because it's just impedance. So the InBody is a little bit finicky. The shape scale, it takes chin to shin measurements volumetrically and circumferentially from chin to shin. It gives you all of those numbers. It gives you body mass index, which I think is worthless and for insurance companies only. And it's still not the best thing that's out there, but it gives me some tool where I can show the patient scientifically what they're doing when they don't listen to me is not working. And it's not only not working, but it's hurting them.
Yeah.
Is it as accurate as a DEXA scan? Hell no. Not even close. Do I have enough money to put a DEXA scan in my clinic? Hell no. Not even close.
Yeah.
Same thing. So having tools like that where you're holding your patients accountable, the patients have to see me 3 times in the first month, day 1, day 14, day 28. They have 24-hour access to me. Any of my patients will tell you that. I carry the office phone as a cell phone. We take that home every single night. And I did that because that's the type of doctor I wanted to be. That's the type of care I wanted to give. Is that cumbersome sometimes when you are on vacation? Sure as hell it is to answer that call. But you answer a call about someone who just started getting constipation, and it is so much easier to keep them from going into gastroparesis because you weren't attainable until 2 more weeks when their appointment was. I head off a lot of those complications.
What is that? What is that complication?
Gastroparesis is where your gut stops moving altogether.
Oh.
So I've not had that happen with any patient, but I've definitely had several patients who have had really bad constipation where we've had to use an enema or magnesium citrate to try to get the bowels going. Because if you're not drinking enough water and you eat as much protein as I tell the patients they have to eat, which the protein is based on their lean muscle mass, it's not some ideal body weight like a lot of places do, you're probably going to get constipated already, especially on the female side, because you got a 5'2" female who's going to have a protein requirement of about 65 grams a day. They are not used to putting that amount of protein in their gut. They're going to get constipated most likely just from protein. Then I threw a medication that slows their gut down. So if you don't have a doctor that's willing to do that and they're just going to hand the medication out to you, semaglutide's a horrible medication. You shouldn't take it. I'll agree with every trainer in the world and everyone who bashes it. But semaglutide is one of the first medications ever where you actually have punishment for not eating enough, so you can't starve the weight off because you get low blood sugar because it's a diabetic medication first. You'll get really nauseous if you don't eat. So you can't do keto, you can't do intermittent fasting on semaglutide. Your blood sugar will drop too much. Even though,
screwed.
Yeah, you would be screwed. But then you get extremely nauseous if when you get that signal, which is a much more abrupt signal of being full, if you ignore it, and you take one more bite, I bet you only do that once.
Interesting.
Because you're gonna give that bite back most likely, or you'll wish you could give that bite back for about 3 hours.
So you got standards of which, like, you know, someone comes in, they talk about semaglutide, like, what is it? You know, you got those things obviously, but what else would be?
So tirzepatide is the other one, and tirzepatide is newer, and it hits that same receptor that semaglutide does, but about half as hard because it also hits a second receptor that decreases the hunger signals that we get. So tirzepatide is lower on the rung as far as complications with my personal patients. The weight loss is higher with both the studies and my personal patients, but it's a brand new one. So the cost is significantly higher. So I always start people unless there's a contraindication on semaglutide.
Yeah.
I don't even let tirzepatide be an option for them. And I try to literally talk them out of it if they want to go on tirzepatide first without trying semaglutide, because your dollar is worth just as much as my dollar.
So, and, you know, we're getting to the end of this segment, and you know, we'll finish up here because I just want to dive into so much of this, and I've enjoyed talking with you today. I do got a question too, though, because, you know, you brought up the protein intake thing. And so there's a standard that you need to bring in like a massive amount of protein to gain weight, right? And so people are talking about 1.5, 2 grams per pound of body weight, you know, and so they don't know whether that you hear that and that's all you get, but you don't hear, you know, is that based off of like your lean mass? Does it have to be that high? Because, you know, some people actually do pretty well without going to that high per pound. You know, what is your take on that?
Definitely it needs to be lean mass, at least needs to be taken into account.
Yeah.
You know, you take an NFL lineman that weighs 280 pounds and tell them they need to do 1.5, and you take an American couch potato that weighs 280 pounds and you tell them to do 1.5, you're going to shut their kidneys down.
Yeah.
They do not have the receptors for it. They don't have all the muscles to take in all that protein, which means the kidneys are going to have to process all that kidney. You're going to get something called nephrotic syndrome where you start dumping way too much protein. You cannot hold on to the protein. You're going to piss the kidneys off. Your kidney function is going to decrease. Your pee gets all frothy in the toilet. So you have to look at each individual person. Just like you said, it's got to be based on their muscle. It can't just be based on body weight.
Interesting. All right, cool. Well, thanks for clearing that up. Now, to finish up, we've got a lot of good info. Great story, man. I got to meet your wife one of these days because I love y'all's story too, man. We'll have to get you back in here to dive into some more controversial stuff. You know, whatever you want to, man. I'm down to dive into whatever kind of topics. Just outside, we'll step outside a doctor and dive into some other things. But I do want to know, finish every episode with this. First of all, what's your goal with your business? Yeah, answer that real quick. What's your goal?
Goal for my business,
Yeah.
as cheesy as it can sound, I want people to feel as good as possible on the inside. I want them to look as good as possible on the inside.
And just grow with that.
That is it.
Yeah. Hell yeah. No, that's not cheesy at all, man. It's honest, and that's what needs to be said as far as for what you do. But my big question, it's going to take some soul searching, man. Ready for it?
I'm ready.
What is your relentless pursuit?
It would be to make an impact on the medical community with this clinic, to do a little bit of a reset, because especially during COVID, it was really highlighted just how much people hate the medical community and doctors being lumped into that. There's been a huge amount of distrust for the entire medical community. We have people getting shot outside of hotels now because of insurance claims being denied, probably is what they're going to come up with for that. I mean, trying to rebuild that trust and do a reset to where a doctor is supposed to be someone that you come to in a time of need. I have someone that's sitting in front of me that is at a point in their life to where they are willing to let a stranger give them a needle and shove a foreign substance into their skin just because they need to lose some weight. That's not vanity.
Yeah.
That is they trying to make change. They're trying to live longer for their kids.
Yeah.
That should be something that is not lightly given, that trust. So doctors should have time to sit down and talk with their patients. You can't see 6 patients in an hour and get paid what the insurance companies do, because you have to see that many if you accept insurance, or you don't pay for your building, much less live some extravagant supposed doctor lifestyle.
Yeah.
So trying to reset this attitude that we have, and I think it's happening. We've got a lot more concierge doctors, you call them, or direct primary care doctors, that my appointments are half an hour long, and I hear this all the time. And that knock is my wife knocking on the door. She's going to hand me a note that doesn't say anything, and it just means stop talking, because you have other people to see, because I talk that long and let my patients talk that much. But that's what I'm here for.
This is a lot about you, though. Yeah, you know that's a positive thing. You're rebuilding that trust. So I think we're on a turning point, and I think in a lot of ways in society we're at a peak where things are starting to shift into a different place. At least I hope. But it's going to take some work to get there.
Correct.
Yeah, and people are going to be like, no, don't listen to him. They're going to do what they can because they want to keep truth and information shut down.
Yeah, my way isn't going to make money for a bunch of pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies, and a lot of times not me.
Yeah.
But I think if you are good at doing something and you're genuine with doing something, the success, whether you want to call it financial success or financial freedom or just living a life that you're proud of, that's going to come.
Yeah.
So I like money just as much as the next person. I want to be able to take my family on vacations. I want my kids to have nice clothes. I want to eat good food. I don't want to have to go shop at Walmart and buy the lowest grade of meat that there is and hope I don't catch something.
Yeah.
But I really, not sounding generic, I genuinely focus on the patient.
Yeah. You can't sell out.
The majority of my patients are friends. And I don't mean they were friends before. They have become friends. We go out, we'll have a beer, we'll hang out for dinner. I'll go meet their family on a boat or something for the weekend. And those people refer patients to me. So 95% of my people come from referral. And I can always tell when someone is a referral and someone's not, because I'll walk in and the vibe is just a little different. And I'll say, so I always start off with, so how'd you hear about us? And they're like, oh, I found you on Google. I was like, I can tell.
Yeah.
Yep. You don't have that immediate connection. When you walk into a room from a referral, that level of trust is already notched up a little bit because someone already kind of vouched for you.
Oh yeah, man.
Well,
I appreciate that, man. Hopefully you'll just people be like, I heard you on the Relentless podcast. Mm-hmm. You just get overflowed. You're like, Joe, you got to shut that episode down. I'm getting too many clients. No, I really appreciate that, man. And I appreciate your time. We're going to cut this one out, but we're going to have to get another one in the books.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, man. Keep crushing it, dude. It's been an honor having you on here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Take care.